and Candyland at 0.09. So the big news of the week has been that on Otherdeed, if you were an Otherdeed holder, there was the decoupling this week. So if your land was one of the 10,000 that had a coda, you could now claim your coda as a separate NFT, and you could also claim your vessel. If your land didn't have a coda, you could just claim a vessel. So the decoupling is live, and if we jump on here and have a look, here is Kodas. So this makes me smile, I'll be honest. There's been speculation for so long as to what will the floor price be. Is it better to have a coda or a mutant? As far as if you could buy something now for around this price, what would you rather have? As it stands now, the market has spoken, and the market would pay a little bit more for a mutant, which is sitting at just under 13 ETH, than it would for a coda. But I really like these guys. I don't know. I just like the look of them. Cade, what do you think? If you could choose, would you rather, at this point of time, if they were the same price, would you rather, from an investment perspective, get a coda, or would you rather get a mutant?
Bro, 100% mutant. Not even close. Are you about to say you'd rather have a coda?
I'm not necessarily about to say that. I'm saying it's an interesting question. You've got mutants, which the positive for mutants is that they are a ticket into the ecosystem more so than a coda. However, the positive for the coda is that it's a ticket into Otherside, which is really where Yuga's putting all of its chips in gaming. I mean, they really are moving into this gaming space aggressively. Their new CEO is this gaming native. This is the future. And the coda is the future. The mutants the past. No.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. It sort of depends on what you care about in the ecosystem, I guess. Like, I'm not a gamer, so I don't give a shit really. But also, like in any game setting, I feel like if I was running around in the metaverse, I just want something that resembles more. Like the mutant apes are somewhat humanoid-ish, and these are just like random little 3 foot tall creatures. So like if I was to represent myself as like my digital identity in the metaverse, I would still rather go with a mutant ape. But definitely like maybe in certain game settings, it would make sense to have one of these. But
So I really agree with you as far as a PFP goes. I would prefer mutant. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know if I've even got an answer. I think that it's interesting. There's arguments for both. In the end of the day, you've got 10,000. You're going to have 10,000 coders. You've got 20,000
mm,
mutants. So that adds a bit of an interesting thing as far as rarity goes. Um,
true.
if you just want one as far as PFP goes, then I think a mutant hands down as far as just PFP, not necessarily art. I think this art is really interesting and arguably even maybe nicer than mutants visually. I don't know, but as a PFP, I do think a mutant is more, as you said, sort of human-like than this is. And yeah, but I mean, definitely interesting, really interesting. I really like the art. I find these very fascinating. I enjoy looking at them.
The public sentiment is they like it too. I've seen Journey Crypto's been active on Twitter. He's been excited to mint a few because he's got like a million bored apes.
Yeah, we haven't heard from him for a while. Nice to see he's still around, hey? How's his
Yeah,
project doing?
I fucking don't know. He's not active, so I don't hear about it.
For sure. So interesting to see these coders. Just to jump into a bit of stats on them, sort of just looking at them visually. So far, we have got 4,200 of them minted, potentially up to 10,000. There's been 658 ETH traded on them. The floor price currently 10.3 Ethereum, but just looking, the floor is very, very thin. I mean, if you look here, you got 246, so you got 12 until it gets to 12 ETH, which is not much, you know. So that's definitely interesting to see. You got 62% ownership ratio, unique owners. Um, Sales are all over the place. I mean, wow, quite interesting to see the different values. You got this one that
Yeah.
sold for 16 ETH, another one for 20. Always very bullish when there's NFT selling quite a lot over the floor value, which is what we are seeing here. Um, yeah, man, seems to be what, about 4, 5 sales every hour. So interesting to see. Nice to see.
Some solid liquidity right there. Goddamn. Who's buying these things?
Everybody, Kate.
Guess everybody's got 12 ETH, 20 ETH to spend. Jesus, that's crazy. 40 grand, 30, 40 grand each. That is
So
wild.
12 ETH, 12 ETH is about 22,000 rand. Sorry, dollars at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a lot
Jeez.
of money. So the other side of it, dum, is you also able to claim your vessels. So everybody with the Otherdeed land was able to claim a vessel. We know that there's 100,000 lands, and so far we've got 31,000 vessels that have been claimed. We know that these are going to be instrumental into the gaming side, and I think what's interesting about all of this is that we're starting to get a glimpse into how the other side is going to play out. There's going to be all of these different collections. The first one that we're seeing at the moment is vessels of in-game sort of assets that allow you to do different things within this whole land of Mara that they're talking about. So the floor one is sitting at 0.33 at the moment. If we just sort it according to traits, so the ones you're seeing are the hunters. If we click on farmer, and if you missed it, we did talk about these in detail last week, and there's a standalone video there as well. Just search for Yuga vessels on my YouTube. You'll be able to see it. Farmer sitting at 0.4, and the enchanter sitting at 0.65 as far as the floor price goes. So yeah, man, very interesting to see.
Yeah, dude, I don't have too much to say about these assets. I'm just more, yeah, I'm just kind of watching them, just kind of staying up with with how they're doing, just because there's so many in their ecosystem now. So I'm just kind of interested to
Yeah.
see what the sentiment changes, if it changes at all. Once I mean, they inevitably will have to go down in price at some point. So I'm
So
just,
it's already corrected a little bit. So it's corrected almost zero point 0.3, so the amount of the vessel. So it was sitting at about 1.8 something. It's now 1.6. So it has slightly corrected. What I'm thinking is what we're going to start to see is as time rolls out, if you look at any land and you find one that's got some sentiment on it, like this thing over here, that is going to be able to be stripped from the land in future. So all the resources and everything that you see is it's going to become its own separate asset that, like we've seen with the Kodas and the vessels, that
mm,
has its own value in the game when it finally does roll out.
yeah, just because the board ape ecosystem is so used to everything being worth a lot. I'm just very interested to see, because it looks like the way they're going, they're not particularly worried about the floor. Like the team isn't, the actual brand isn't. The holders probably are. So like if and when these split up into all these things, and we're at a point where NFTs are just you being able to own the assets versus the game owning the assets, will that affect people's opinion, especially the holders' opinions on the brand? Will they start to say, "Damn"? Like at that point, it's kind of, I guess, like that's the gamble. Bored Apes and Yuga is betting that their brand is big enough and strong enough at that point, and have delivered value enough over the last 2 years that people will kind of forgive them, if in a sense, if that's not the right word, but like be okay with the fact that maybe the prices aren't as high at some point in the future because it's always been tied to the high value.
For sure. I think there is definitely going to be that culture shift where people are realizing that this is the gaming side of Yuga and that that's going to have different rules and than you see in the PFP side. So you've got your
Mm.
on the left hand side the board apes, the mutants, the kennels, and then on the right you've got your other side and you've got your coders, your vessels, and all the in-game assets that are going to come afterwards. And you've got to really separate those in your mind, I think, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
You know what I found really interesting when you looked at the second trip that we covered last week, that other side had, where they did a teaser video after, and at the end of the video they zoomed out, and all of those 7,000 people were playing in one land.
Mm-hmm.
So and that land seemed huge. So that
Yeah.
was definitely a hint at what's to come, and just the scale of what they are building, which is really interesting.
Damn, that is very interesting. I didn't even really consider like the size of the metaverse in like terms of physical size, because I just figured, oh, the metaverse just goes on forever. The land will just be infinitely big, but that's not the case. You have to buy certain plots, and certain plots are bigger than others. That's very interesting, actually. It makes me think of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist Kingdom Season 1. If you guys are Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans, there's a Season 1 in Duelist Kingdom where they have to battle and duel on certain parts of the island, and certain parts of the island have different attributes and traits that you can, use to advantage or to like fuck with the other person. Like if you have a bunch of sea monsters and stuff, you'd want to fight closer to the ocean because the ocean has different advantages and things like that. And just makes me excited for that because that's a reality that we will be able to play on and play with very soon, I think.
For
Not very
sure.
soon,
I
but
mean, I remember, back in the day when NFT Worlds was still on Minecraft and doing so well,
mm,
how their big thing was that each land was massive. That if you were an avatar in the land, which you could be, it would take you something like a week to walk from one side of one of your lands, a single land, to the other side of that land. Whereas the sandbox, we all know, like if you've done anything in the sandbox, those plots are pretty small.
they're
Um,
tiny.
so I think like one NFT world was like almost equivalent to the size of the whole of Sandbox, and that definitely has a huge significance. So it's looking like Yuga and the other side is going to be similar to NFT worlds as far as the size of each plot is going to be massive, and that's really cool because it means you can build a lot more on your land, and you also if you've got a particular resource, you've got a lot more of that resource than you thought because your land is bigger than you might have thought to begin with. So
Mm.
definitely interesting to watch. I'm enjoying seeing them play it out. They really have come with one thing after another. In the last month or two, they really have picked up their game. I think it can be a bit overwhelming on the one side, just the amount of stuff that's happening and coming out. And if you're not really a Yuga Maxi, I think it's quite difficult to stay on top of everything that's coming out over here. But on the other side, they're definitely keeping people engaged. There's things coming out all the time. We've got stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna say I literally have no idea what's going on with Yuga. It's too much, and I don't care. Like I don't have an asset that makes me care enough. So I think you're right. I'm very interested to see like if, for the people who are not in the Yuga ecosystem, do you guys keep up at all? Like, does it make any difference in your life? Like, it's hard to know how much of a influence Yuga has on people's like mental. Like, how much does it take up in their mental when they think about like when they're going through their day? Most of the NFT people, does Yuga come up in their mind, or is that just like a small subset of people that are just way louder because they've got bigger bags and bigger followers, probably?
Yeah, I mean, I think typically you tend to see when good stuff is happening in Yuga, then there's volume in the market in general, and typically the NFT market there's more liquidity and it's doing well. So if you're a trader, even if you're a small trader, not of high value assets, so you're not buying Yuga assets, but you're buying very low value NFTs, but for trading, not for community or art, you do find that when there's a big Yuga drop going on that's going well, in general, that market's doing well because all these whales are getting airdrops and whatever, and then spending their money on smaller
Yeah,
collections, and it
true,
does trickle down.
true.
So I think, yeah, just interesting to see the effect it has.